Owen doesn't have 3 to give the gargoyle flying, so then you get to attack with the carrion crow.
I think he's actually trying to get an extra 2 life out of Owen by letting him pay the life and then lightning striking it.
And I mean, that's good. I mean, it doesn't use your mana as efficiently, I don't think.
Well, you still could cast Covenant on a different thing if you wanted to just cast them both.
Yeah. I guess you get 2 extra damage. I'm just kind of...
Here's the biggest drawback.
Yeah. I'm also just kind of interested in using my expensive sorcery.
Yeah. That was a pretty big blow up for Owen. I mean, eating a Carrion Crow and a Lightning Strike for a negate is huge.
Yeah. I guess he's thinking about giving a lifelink now.
Yeah, but he might just want to Covenant the Vampire, in which case you're better off just letting the Crow die and then Covenant.
Yeah.
There actually is... Well, that's a sorcery, so... That would have actually worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
So, Covenant's still happening. We're taking a long and circuitous route there.
Why
but
did he put that island face up?
He flipped it over like it was a Covenant.
Oh.
Yeah, I think he... So, end of the day, Vampire goes to the graveyard, so does Carrion Crow, so does Lightning Strike, so does Negate.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, even to get aside, I think I really just like tapping my 7 and Covenanting or whatever. Tapping the Research Assistant and the Merc Lurker and 5 and Covenanting. Because then you've got your Lightning Strike open, you've got your 2 mana to give the Carrion Crow lifelink.
It's possible, actually, he could have tapped... no, I guess he didn't have quite enough mana. I was trying to see if you could cast Covenant and still activate Research Assistant, but you give up a 2-point lifelink hit to do that, and I don't think that's worth it.
Yeah.
Merc Lurker is now, becoming dust. Owen actually could just start attacking. I mean, it's 30-14, but 6 against 1 is a pretty good ratio.
And this is actually a pretty aggressive play by Owen, right? Because he knows Eric has an island in hand, because Eric showed it to him.
Right.
So, I mean, Research Assistant is basically
But wouldn't it be more
card.
sporting to disregard that?
Well, yeah, but I don't think Owen's going to do that. So.
I guess you can't unpoison the well.
Oh, and look, that explains it. I was thinking, like, wow, I probably wouldn't let him draw cards with Research Assistant here, just to get him, more damage. I know Merc Lurker's better than Research Assistant, but right now, I don't know if I like this. And then, of course, Owen shuts down the Research Assistant with Phyrexian Revoker.
Yeah, but it looks like Eric hit Lightning Strike here, which actually would just go for the Revoker. You need to draw something.
Start drawing cards. It's kind of interesting because the Revoker could have shut down either the Lurker or the Assistant, but obviously, if you're going to shut off either activated ability, you'd rather leave them with a 1/3 than a 2/4.
Right.
But if they have a removal, which one do you want them to have in play?
I think that Owen took the riskier line that has a better payoff if Eric doesn't have anything.
Right.
I think if Eric does have an answer, you'd much rather him have the Merc Lurker. You don't care if you just can run into your Gargoyle Sentinel every turn and gain 2 life.
Right, I agree.
So I would have been inclined to do that the other way around. The main difference, I guess, is that maybe Owen wants to be able to hit for 6 and race versus 1 instead of 2.
Yeah, I mean, Owen is in a position with Path Mage where if he keeps getting Eric lower and lower... Did he cast a spell?
Yeah, he cast something that caught, like his Sign in Blood.
Yeah, he must have. He has 2 tap, but I don't see anything. But yeah, I guess Owen's figuring like he has Path Mage. He's more conservative dealing damage. But I mean, I don't know. Like, Eric's got so much removal. I'm just in card drawing. I'm more interested in him not drawing cards.
Yeah. Though it doesn't look like Research Assistant's going to be used this turn because Glacial Crasher is going to come down instead.
Sure. Which, I don't know if this is necessarily even correct, but, I mean...
Well...
it can't attack.
I guess
it can attack, but it can't block.
Owen can actually hit for 10 a turn right now.
And he's, like, way ahead in the race. I mean, Owen's play is obviously fine. There's a very small amount of value, like, either direction, like, to try and figure out which play is better.
Right.
Like, killing the Assistant and revoking the Merc Lurker, it has gains in some areas and losses in some areas.
I actually think a kind of relevant one is that if Eric draws the kill spell for the Assistant for Revoker a few turns later, it's much better for Eric if there's a Merc Lurker in play, because Research Assistant is good over 5 turns. Merc Lurker is good over 1 or 2 turns.
Yeah, that's true.
So
and if he draws the removal this very next turn, you'd probably rather not. You'd probably rather him have the Merc Lurker and not let him start Assistanting.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just a very close play, I think.
Yeah. Owen's still just like, the fact that Owen, it's like turn 10 and he's not using Gargoyle Sentinel when he doesn't want to block with it is good news for Owen. It means he's doing relevant things with all his mana.
Yeah, well, Owen is browning him right now. But, Owen either had or drew into the Sign in Blood into the Angel. Like, I don't think he had these cards earlier.
Drawing Sign in Blood into Angel is kind of sick when you have nothing in your hand.
Yeah.
So Eric is researching, hit spells, but he's going to need something pretty good here, because even though he's slightly ahead on life, Owen has a lot of unblockable damage coming in, and Glacial Crasher without any burn, is not really going to race it.
So maybe I'm partially biased by this, although it's the kind of thing Owen should be thinking about. I think Eric has in Garrick's wake, which is one of the reasons when he has 9 mana, I didn't want to start letting him draw cards.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. But I don't think you play around that in sealed, like, unless you really have a good reason to.
Well, I mean, obviously when we know their deck list, it's a little bit different. But also, this is 6 packs of one set.
Right.
I mean, he is these colors. He does have 9 land in play. You know, if you have a lot more resources than him, you start thinking, what's the best thing he can do? You know what I mean?
Eric actually went a long way towards stabilizing here. He traded off Glacial Crasher for the Gargoyle Sentinel and the Island Walking Squid, and then encrusted the Path Mage. So Angel's now a 5-turn clock. That's actually not that bad.
Sure. How did he manage to make that trade? Owen blocked?
Owen just blocked. He triple blocked.
Oh, I guess Owen had to. I didn't realize Owen's life was low. Where did he take damage from in this game?
He got hit by the Crow and the Merc Lurker for some amount of time. He cast Sign of Blood.
The Gargoyle Sentinel was out blocking the Merc Lurker. It really didn't feel like Owen took a lot of damage.
I guess the Merc Lurker did not ever get in, but the Crow did.
The Crow got in once or something? I don't know. I'm sure that Owen took the damage, if that's what the life totals say, and Owen made that block, because Owen doesn't make that block at 20. But I didn't even see it happen. I didn't know when Owen took damage. I must have just missed it on a turn or two where I was thinking about
Owen also had Peel from Reality in his hand, so I think he was hoping that Eric would go for a trick there, and then he could peel the Glacial Crasher.
Sure.
As is, he got to peel away Encrust, which is still decent.
Yeah.
All right. Eric is hellbent again after playing Coral Barrier and replaying Research Assistant. He's got the Bronze Sable in play still, but it's not really doing much.
Yeah.
He's on now a 1-turn clock. He's getting hit, down to 6 here. And
So he's got a top decker removal or he loses.
Yeah.
Whether it's in Garrick's Wake, which would obviously be his favorite card to top deck.
Would in Garrick's Wake be good here? Owen just played 2 more creatures.
Yeah.
That would be pretty sick if this just slams.
Yeah. It's just Swamp. And he doesn't even bother to assist him, which is probably not unreasonable, because without the ability to cast Wake and Owen playing 2 more creatures, I'm not really sure what he can assist him into.
It would be tough. I guess he could assist him in a way to kill the Path Mage, go to 2 from the Angel if he has enough blockers.
Yeah.
But it's still going to be pretty tough to win from there. He's looking for in Garrick's Wake, I think. I would definitely keep looking at my top cards.
Yeah, for sure.
So that actually brings us to the end of this round, and we're going to take a slightly longer break before we come back next round.
Cool. Maybe we get to eat or something.
Oh, I already ate while you guys were doing commentary, so.
Maybe I get to eat.
Nah, not allowed. Hey everyone, welcome back to Grand Prix Salt Lake City. I'm Luis Scott Vargas here with Paul Cheon. And we'll be coming up with round 5 shortly, but for now actually we wanted to go back to talking about some of the cards from Cons of Tarkir, since there's some pretty sweet ones spoiled so far, and sure many more to come. So going to Timur, since we covered most of Osman at that point. Or Obzon rather. Critter's Claws is, so it's Blaze, but if you have a creature with power 4 or greater, it is X+2 instead. I mean, that's their mechanic, is Ferocious.
Extra Blaze.
Yeah. I think this card's pretty interesting because Blaze is not that far away from constructed playable. I mean, it's clearly not by itself constructed playable, but look at the ones that have been played, like Devil's Play, Banefire. Like, these cards aren't insanely different, and so having an extra 2 points of damage is actually pretty interesting.
Well, and that's the thing. If you ever have, like, once again, like, the power 4 greater, it's just like a discount on the Blaze. It's just like, just tapping 3 mana to deal 4 damage is like...
It's like you got 2 extra mana, but you have to spend it on the Blaze.
Sure, yes. But, I mean, it also just makes for, like, cheap removal spells if you're playing stuff like what's next in the line.
Savage Knuckleblade. I mean, I wrote a whole article about this guy, but the card is just absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 mana 4/4, giving it haste, so it's 4 mana 4/4 haste. Also attacks as a 6/6, even if you don't want to spend the mana. And with enough mana, they can't even kill it. You can also just, like, bounce it, replay it, attack. Like, it also goes off with Temur Ascendancy, which is, we don't have it up here, but it's an enchantment that gives all your creatures haste, and whenever you play a 4 strength or more creature, draw a card. So
it's a little extra value, too, on top of that. Yeah.
Right, so with that combo, you get to just go off and draw a bunch of extra cards. So I think Savage Knuckleblade it seems like one of the best cards we've seen so far.
Oh, definitely. Like, in terms of power level, it's just like, how do you deal with this guy? Like, gets in there, it's really hard to kill, and it's basically with enough mana, you have Vigilance. Like,
would you say this card's pretty savage?
I would say it's the Blade.
There we go. Yeah. See, like, I set him up and Paul knocks him down. Ben's shaking his head in disgust.
Yeah, I know.
Is what I can tell the viewers, because even though Ben isn't here, you can't actually...
You know for sure he's doing it. Yeah.
We also have Icy Blast. This one interests me a little less than Crater's Claws. Basically, if you have a 4-power creature, it's, Frost Breath for X.
Right.
Otherwise, it's just tap X creatures. In Constructed, I'd rather just kill their creatures. I'm not sure how much I'm locking them down. It's not quite Cryptic Command.
Yeah, I was looking at it, but the thing is, it's possible that it could see some play in, like, the Mono Blue Devotion deck. A lot of times that deck's just trying to tempo people out, if the Mono Blue Devotion deck is still a thing post-rotation.
Yeah, and I think that Mono Blue has enough problems right now, like, in figuring out exactly what it wants to be doing. I'm not sure if another tempo card is really what it needs.
That's true.
But it's possible. I mean, I can see scenarios where this card sees play, but I don't know if it's necessarily going to be as good as something like Crater's Claws, which I think is going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if the format becomes, like, very creature-centric, they're making these incredibly powerful 3-drop creatures, and if it's just like a slugfest, then this can be a card that could actually be good in certain matchups.
Yeah. I actually like Ice Feather Aven as well. I mean, at its base, it's a Gaia Skyfolk. It's blue and a green for a 2/2 flying.
Oh, yeah.
Which is already, like, pretty close to just being playable. And then if you morph it, then unmorph it, it bounces any creature. It's kind of like a Riftwind Cloudskate with morph instead of suspend.
Yeah, it's got a little extra value. I was wondering, like, how they were going to push the morphs, because just going into it, I'm like, how are they going to make morphs playable? And they're giving them free abilities, which is
being able to turn face up for free is a pretty big deal.
Right, because the thing is, morphs are just generally very inefficient. Like, you have to pay 3 mana, all you're getting is a 2/2, then you have to pay more mana to, like, make it very large.
So I just got word of what our feature matches are. First up, we've got Sam Party versus Paul Rietzel. We get to see Sam's blue-red artifact deck.
It's got like a draft deck. It's
it actually is pretty cool. And then our time-shifted match, is John Stern against Trey Van Cleve.
Alrighty.
Trey actually beat me at GP Chicago when he was playing mono green aggro and I was playing mono blue, which is generally a pretty good matchup for mono blue.
Right.
But he sided in a lot of Setessan tactics and just fought all my creatures to death.
Yeah, like if they bring in enough like Skylashers tactics and Miscutter Hydras.
Yeah, he had Skylashers also. So
maybe they can get there.
It was pretty nice. So we're going to be taking a look at more cons cards as kind of the day goes on here. I'm really interested to see what morphs are constructed playable, because back in Onslaught, Exalted Angel, Fathom Seer, or I guess that was in...
Shapeshifter. That was in Time.
So in Onslaught we had Exalted Angel, maybe Willbender.
Right.
And then back in Time Spiral we had Fathom Seer to some degree, Shapeshifter, and also Willbender again, I guess.
Right. Well, there was also Blistering Firecat.
Yeah, and Blistering Firecat. So we've had a range of morphs, but not that many are playable. It would be interesting if there was like 10 playable morphs instead of like 3.
Yeah.
Because I think that's when we end up, actually having some amount of mystery. When a white deck played a Morph back in Onslaught, it was just Exalted Angel. I mean, I guess it could be Whipcord sometimes too, but it generally was not.
Yeah.
So it would be cool if you have enough cards like Ice Feather Avon, which you can actually cast, and it's also decent to morph, and it's also like, it just increases the range of playable morphs. Like if there's like 2 or 3 morphs that plausibly go in the same deck, you actually have a little bit of the shell game, which wasn't really present in Constructed, though I certainly will be unlimited.
Although, I mean, it's still one of those things like, with Ice Feather, like most of the time you're going to be just playing it as a 2-mana 2/2 flyer. The morph is still kind of clunky. I don't know if this card is gonna, it doesn't have the power to be playable in like Constructed.
So at a 2-mana 2/2 flyer or a 6-mana 2/2 flyer that bounces a creature, if you just like play it on morph it right away.
Right.
Or you can play it on turn 3 and then morph it on turn 4. So
I just feel like that's not the strongest play if you're just playing like turn 3 morph.
Right. None of those scenarios are Constructed playable, right? Those 3. The combination of all 3, having the option to do all 3 might be though.
Oh, so it's like Cryptic Command.
Yeah, kind of. It's like Fire Ice. Because like Fire Ice is actually a playable card in Vintage, the most powerful of formats.
Yeah.
Ice would not be playable and Fire would not be playable. The combination of the 2 actually kind of is.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that like flexibility, like you see on the Charms, for example, is pretty good.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And you were hinting at possibility that there might be more lands to help us play these like 3-color aggressive decks.
Yeah, like I said earlier, that presumably we have a set cycle of 10 lands, which we don't know yet. So I'm not sure what exactly it'll look like or whether those even will help mana fixing.
Just a full set of fetch lands? What if they just did that?
I suspect that is not the case. That would be a 6 slow roll. Here's the 5 fetch lands. Also, here's the second 5 fetch lands. But the players are shuffling up, so we'll go down pretty soon here. And we'll be taking a look at our round 5 pairings. So we already saw Sam Party's deck last round, and looks like he's playing against Paul's. Of course, Paul's playing Boros.
Boros, not green-white. Almost every good deck I've seen has just been a green-white deck.
Yeah, but Paul's a real big fan of Boros. At Pro Tour Gatecrash, he first picked Mugging over Domi Raid.
Jeez, really?
He just wouldn't draft anything but Boros. It was the best Boros card in the pack.
Well, he's also probably one of the best Boros players on the planet.
I believe that is true. So it's pretty funny that how all in he is on Boros. Of course, he would play whatever sealed, colors of sealed it demands, but in this particular case, it looks like Boros was the deck he wanted to play.
Yeah.
And actually, it looks like the players are ready, so we're going to head back down to the feature match area. Boros with the exclamation point.
Well,
I mean, that is accurate.
It doesn't really come as a surprise, right? And for those of you guys who were actually watching earlier, Sam Party is in the feature match area again with what's looking like a pretty awesome blue-red artifact deck. It's got 2 Aeronaut Tinkerers, a Scrapyard Mongrel, and an Insult Artifact to go with 6 artifacts in his deck.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, including like a Grindstone.
Yeah. That one was probably like the 23rd card, would be my guess.
So it's kind of interesting. I imagine this is because I think Paul might play more seals than anyone I know. Like actually, like he just plays so much Magic Online.
Okay.
He's played less recently, but he still plays a lot. He's not playing 2 Goblin Rough Riders in his deck, and that's a card you'd normally expect to see in just a red-based deck. So the only way I think he does that if he's confident that he's played enough to not play the card Sam just cast.
Yeah. That is really strange, especially in like a Boros beatdown deck. He must have like other 3-drops that are just significantly better.
Yeah, his card quality overall is pretty high, and I think he was just not interested in a guy who not only costs 3 only has 2 toughness. He'd rather have Swift Claw as a 3/1 for 2, or looks like he's got a full 3 Scrapyard Mongrels to go with his own. Looks like 4 artifacts.
This Swift Claw just getting in there. It looked like Paul actually had 2 lightning strikes in his hand, so
yeah, he's got 2 in his deck.
Prepared for getting in for a ton of damage. It looks like he's already done 9 damage to Sam, so Sam is actually at 11 life.
Yeah, Sam's about to go to 5 here.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, playing 2 3-power 2-drops plus 2 lightning strikes is a beating, and Paul might outpace our recorded match so fast that we don't have time to time shift right into it.
Yeah. All right, and that's game. Wow. Nice little 1-minute match, or game rather.
Yeah, that was a pretty insane start here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, looking at Sam's deck, his deck is, not the fastest.
But he does have a Forge Devil, at least one. And if he draws that Forge Devil on that draw, the game's completely different. Instead, Swift Claw doesn't do anything. Yeah.
He's also got cards like Brawler's Place and Grind Clocks, which obviously, he might consider boarding those out against, because they don't do anything.
Grind Clock is an inevitable kill condition.
Yeah, well,
I guess it doesn't match up that well against 2-mana 3/1s and Lightning Strikes.
Exactly. Actually,
but what if you mill the Lightning Strike?
I suppose, but It looked like Sam actually took pause when he saw Circle of Flame. I don't know if he actually wants to bring that one in, but...
Circle of Flame is okay at stopping Swiftclaw. The problem is it doesn't actually stop many other white creatures. It doesn't stop any of the flyers.
Yeah.
It's not great against Selfless Cathar. But if you have a lot of 1-power creatures, Circle of Flame plus 1-power creatures does stop 2 toughness creatures. That's not completely irrelevant.
So one thing I'm actually slightly surprised that Sam's not playing is he has a Shrapnel Blast, but he's not playing it.
And I think the reason for that is you don't really want a Shrapnel Blast unless it's lethal, so it's kind of like a Lava Axe, and his deck might just not want Lava Axe. It might be more of a mid-range deck.
Sure. But it does give you some flexibility. You could still use it as a removal spell.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to kill their Siege Dragon or something, it does the trick.
And it does give you just an out for dealing with bombs, which this format's kind of like all about the bombs.
Is that because it's a sealed Magic the Gathering format?
No, it's because there's the souls.
Well, the souls do help.
I guess it doesn't deal with the soul though.
I think Khans is going to, have a lot of bombs too, but Khans is going to be interesting. And this reminds me of Shards of Alara, that your mana fixing determines what good cards you play.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, how high do you take the Tri-Lands, for example?
In Sealed, you just get a sealed pack of cards, and you get to add as many as you want to your deck. So you don't have to take them, but yes, I would say that they're reasonable first picks if it's like Shards. Obviously, I don't know every card in the format, so I don't know exactly what's going on. But in Shards, first picking Arcane Sanctum, if you're me and want to play Esper every time, was perfect.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I don't think you can just force Esper this time, Luis. Creatures look a little more aggressive.
Esper's not legal.
Well, yes, I understand.
I'm not going to force Esper.
That type of deck. It was insane, too, because I remember you were telling me, like, you made it very clear to everybody, and everybody saw all your draft videos on Channel Fireball.
Yeah, I wrote multiple
articles saying Esper is great. I am going to force Esper. I don't care. And it got to the point where everybody knew you were playing Esper, so they just didn't draft Esper.
Yeah, it was great.
And then you just had like the best time of everything. I remember one of the few Pro Tours I've played since I moved to Curacao.
Hawaii.
Was the Pro Tour Honolulu, and you were just like, all right, just force Esper. And I tried it, and there were just 2 Esper drafters on my table. I went 1-2 both times. I'm like, well, that's the last time I'm forcing an archetype.
I went 5-1 and drafted that Pro Tour with 2 Esper decks.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you were telling me you would get like 3rd pick Tower Gargoyle.
Actually, I was sitting next to Paul Rietzel, and this is a Pro Tour top aided, so he's luckier than I am. But
yeah, of course.
He opened Broodmate Dragon and passed me Tower Gargoyle, which is not the correct pick, obviously, but it's so perfect. He's John Dime Esper.
Yeah, we
just don't overlap
insane.
basically as little as you can with 3-color decks. So pretty sweet.
Yeah. Looks like sideboarding taking actually
longer than the game. Oh yeah, but for sure. I think the Boros might need a second exclamation point after that game. That game was definitely a beating.
Yeah, double. If he wins a match, then we triple up.
Oh, there it goes.
Yeah, there it is. Updates. So what can Sam bring out of the sideboard? We got.
I mean, he's not gonna have extra Forge Devils or anything like that. So he's got to have.
He's got like a Merkle Lurker, but there's no black.
He might have something like I guess Bronze Sable. Obviously, he would already be playing. He already has that in his deck.
Yeah.
Random like 2-drop creatures that normally you don't really fit into his game plan are good against random like 3/2s and whatnot.
But like when I was looking at Sam's deck, he was already kind of looking to be more of a mid-range deck. So I imagine that he would be playing a lot of the early drops just to kind of get there. He's playing like 2 Glacial Crashes, for example, as a finisher.
Yeah, he might not need Glacial Crasher against this particular deck.
Maybe he brings in Wall of Fire?
Wall of Fire does seem better than Glacial Crasher. I mean, you can actually block a 3-power creature as opposed to Glacial Crasher, which doesn't come out until turn 6.
Looks like Paul's got a nice mix of lands and spells here.
Yeah, that does not seem bad. We've got nothing on the board yet for Sam, but that's not necessarily as bad for him.
Sam doesn't really have that many 2-drops in his deck.
And here's where he needs the Forge Devil. Rough Rider is a reasonable approximation here.
Looks like he's just going to offer the trade here. Sam opting not to trade. Interesting.
Dropping Sam to 17 there.
Yeah. Wow. Another blistering start from Paul Reitzel.
Yeah, the only way it could get more blistering is if he had a blistering Firecat.
Wow.
So
that's actually very, very good. Now, like, I don't think Paul really wants to block. Then it just clears the board.
Yeah, so I think Paul's just going to take 5, and then Sam's probably going to kill the 3/1 flyer. It'd be my guess.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul could not take 5, but I think Paul still assumes he's going to be the beatdown here.
Right.
I mean, this is a good start from Paul, but Infernal Fist is a good card. Right here, it's killing the Geist and dealing 2.
Yeah, Paul, looking like Paul is just trying to plan out the next few turns here. It looks like a Raise the Alarm and a Willforge Golem.
Yeah, and I mean, Paul actually has even though he's got a beatdown deck, he's actually got a decent late game with 2 Willforged Golems and 3 Scrapyard Mongols. He's got some pretty heavy hitters.
So this is actually kind of interesting because Paul knows that Sam is going to use the Inferno Fist on the Geist. He's really hoping that Sam just doesn't use the Inferno Fist so that he can play Raise the Arm and Convoke at the Willforged Golem.
Right,
but it looks like Paul just opted to block and not take 5.
Basically, he just forced it because once you block it, it makes Sam do that.
Right.
Also, Sam is on 4 mountains already, which, if you're Paul, makes you think like, well, maybe Sam doesn't have any islands. In which case, you don't need to take a bunch of damage. You can just play for a longer game.
And just hope that Sam just has all blue spells, which he actually does.
Yeah, and this game could be over almost as fast as the first one.
Yeah. Sam needs to draw some islands here. We have a Swift Claw, and he's going to pass. Got to raise the alarm too, though.
There's the island. And Aeronaut Tinker is not bad here. It stops the Raise the Alarm tokens and trades for the Swift Claw. It's possible that...
got some Lewis Cadvargas tokens here.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
It's probably like, top 5 token.
Uh-oh.
Tapping 6 is very
I think he's just
quickly.
casting Willforged Golem to make his Mongrel bigger, and then just at that point you just attack
with
everything. Yeah.
Wise man wants to tell me to attack with everything.
Because Sam can eat a token, but he takes 9 for his troubles here, and that's exactly what Paul's figuring out. Yeah, this match is if this match ends in like the next couple turns, which it looks like it might, we're gonna have a little break, or we're gonna have to talk a little before we get to a recorded match because Paul Rietzel is making our recording scheme fall apart with his savage Boros Legion here.
Yeah, it's a 13-minute match here so far.
Yeah.
So what does Sam do here? Does he just try to trade off with the token or the Swift Claw?
I think you probably want to just block the token. It kind of sucks, and Sam needs something pretty big, but I think this is the one that gives you the most outs, even if it puts you at a really low life total.
Yeah. So this attack is taking Sam down to 5, and Sam desperately needs something. Is that a second Glacial Crasher? That is not going to get it done.
I hope he doesn't have a first.
Well...
Yeah, I mean, Sam would need like a Cone of Flame to survive this, and even then it wouldn't even be that great. The Willforged Golem would still just, come rumbling along.
Yeah.
Well, Paul Rietzel is showing us how it's done.
All right, so Boros with 3 exclamation marks
I think
now.
they actually spent more time shuffling than playing.
Yeah, it's very possible. That
it's
was
not like they spent a lot of time shuffling.
That was like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And most of the time was just Sam thinking about how not to die.
Yeah, I think we're going to just go back, talk about some more cons cards.
Yeah, it seems like, we were just about getting finished there.
That was pretty sweet.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we just finished talking about the Timur Frontier, and now we're moving on to the Sultai Brood.
Yeah, like I said, I don't really know the exact flavor behind them yet, but this is Delve is the mechanic of this particular clan. And Empty the Pits is actually kind of interesting. I mean, given that Empty the Cheons is one of your signature cards.
Right.
The whole chat's going Paul, by the way. Paul.
Yeah, of course. Did you even do anything?
I didn't even start it.
How did this even happen?
I don't know, but let's...
No, you know what? I know exactly what happened. You definitely typed in Paul in the chat.
I didn't
and
actually
now
this time.
Off.
I think I said Paul, talking about Paul Rietzel.
Oh, sure.
Either way, Empty the Cheons here. So this card costs a lot of mana. I mean, quad black XX is not cheap.
Yeah.
And the creature's coming to play tapped, so it's got a lot, moving against it. But the fact that it's an instant is kind of interesting. So end of turn, making 3 or 4 zombies is pretty good.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where this would go into. Obviously, perhaps you're trying to push like an archetype where you can play like Satyr Wayfinders and a self-mill deck, but it still seems kind of excessively expensive. It's really hard to get this to actually work.
I don't know if excessively expensive, because it's going to depend on what enablers show up. I mean, if there's like a good thing that mills 5 cards pretty easily,
like traumatize yourself,
then I think that it's going to be a card that actually could be pretty interesting, like Forbidden Alchemy. They're not going to reprint exactly Forbidden Alchemy clearly, but what if there's a card on par with Forbidden Alchemy? Like what if there's 2 mana, look at your top 4, put one in one in your hand, 3.
Do you think this could serve as like a reasonable win condition for like a control
I think
deck?
it could. I mean, I think it's an uphill battle, just because it is kind of expensive and you can't block right away. It's not White Sun Zenith, but if there's good enablers, this is a powerful card. I mean, the fact that you can get 8 to 10 power for maybe 4 to 6 mana is a real thing at instant speed, end of their turn.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical, but it's certainly a powerful effect. And I knew, also just taking a look at the chat, I knew this was going to happen at some point. And I was basically like, if you're gonna get the people to say Paul, basically the chat's just gonna you're not gonna be able to get anything productive out of the chat for like at least 2 minutes.
No, I think they're actually doing something very productive right now, which
Oh.
is saying Paul.
Okay.
We have proven that that's a very productive use of their time.
All right.
So speaking of enablers, actually, Sidsi Brood Tyrant, the next one, actually is the kind of card that we're talking about. I mean,
Right.
by herself, she on play mills 3, and then every turn that she attacks mills another 3, and every time you mill, you get paid off for it. I mean, getting zombies for every creature you mill, like a very creature-heavy deck. If this is making like 1 to 2 zombies every time you play it, like that's a really big deal.
No, this card just like innately very, very powerful. Like obviously, anytime you can get it to work, it works. I don't even think, but the thing is, I think Sidisi is just good enough on itself. Like you don't
It might
need.
be.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't need to. So you don't need to be playing cards like Empty the Pits to take advantage of it. I think you do need to be playing a lot of creatures very clearly, because like just the straight up milling part is not already good enough. But imagine Sidisi, a lot of creatures, some other mill cards, and some delve cards. That actually sounds like a deck.
They're posting a lot of really powerful creatures. I don't know if they're pushing towards just having a very creature-centric standard, but
Oh, apparently it's
I'm looking for the constructed control cards.
Yeah. Apparently, in order to make this card a little less ridiculous, you actually only get 1 zombie every time a creature's milled.
Okay.
You know, if you play this mill 3 creatures, you just get 1. That's still good.
It's still
So
solid.
5 mana for a 3/3 and a 2/2 and implied future value is
It's
good.
a 4 mana, I believe.
Or 4 mana. I keep upping it by 1, but 4 mana for 5 power in toughness with the creatures is good.
Right.
It is not. It's still more of an enabler though. It's not like you're not just going to go off.
Sure.
Kiro Spell Snatcher is interesting too. It's a hill giant, but you can morph it, and you can pay 6 to unmorph it and steal a spell. You can counter a spell, then exile.
Spelljack?
Yeah, you get to cast it without paying its cost, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. I feel like this probably won't be good enough for constructed. The morph cost is pretty expensive, and hill giant, like that versatility of it being a hill giant, is not going to do anything.
Yeah, I think that it's likely that this is slightly too much. I could see it as like maybe a niche card of some kind, because it is very powerful.
Like a sideboard card in a control matchup, maybe.
But it costs so much to unmorph. Then again, Chromeshell Crab was a playable card in block, where you pay 5 to unmorph it and you switch control of creatures. And this is a powerful effect.
Yeah, and it is almost block constructed, right? All we have is, Theros and 2 more sets. So
Yeah, and so even though it's expensive, your opponent can't actually stop it. It's not like they can have a counterspell, right? So
Right.
if you have the ability up, I mean, it is a very swingy effect.
my only reservation, once again, is just it's a little expensive, and I just don't know if it's actually going to be standard play.
On the other hand, Sultai Charm is just going to be awesome. I mean, draw 2, discard 1, destroy a creature, or destroy an artifact is pretty awesome. It actually is straight up natural, as destroy artifact or enchantment.
Oh, okay, because I was going to say it almost has like a Bant Charm feel to it.
Yeah, it actually is kind of like Bant Charm, but instead of I guess countering a spell, it gets to cycle.
Yeah.
Like you can draw 2, discard 1. I think it's pretty sweet.
No, it's a very, very powerful effect, and I feel like if you're those 3 colors, you're going to be playing several copies of this in your
Yeah,
deck.
it only does kill monocolored creatures, which is a pretty big drawback. I mean, there's a lot of gold creatures in the
Right.
set, but I think the fact that the card is so versatile means that it's going to make enchantments and artifacts actually a little worse, that this is just such a main deckable card.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, when you're playing cards like Ultimate Price before, sometimes you just won't have a target because they're just playing Nightveil Specters and stuff. But with this card, there's always something you can do with it.
Yeah. So it looks like our time-shifted match is actually still in the stack. It's still recording right now, and it's going to be a while, so we're actually just going to take a quick break, and we'll be back soon with that match.
All right, guys, welcome back to Grand Prix Salt Lake City, presented by Channel Fireball and Cascade Games. I'm here joined by Ben Stark. What you watched earlier was a blistering 10-minute victory by Paul Reitzel, and now we're going to get ready to head straight into our new feature, our next time-shifted match, which is Trey Van Cleve against John Stern. Just giving you guys a little heads up that we are going to...
Looking to transmute some unwanted cards into a booster box? Look no further than ChannelFireball.com's online buy list. We offer competitive prices on cards from Ancestral Recall to Zombie Master, and we send payments fast via check or PayPal. If you're not looking for cash, we offer a 30% store credit bonus. Head to ChannelFireball.com/buy list to submit your buy order. It's faster and easier than winning with a pack.
All right, once again, guys, back to Grand Prix Salt Lake City. What you're seeing right now is a match of a few turns have already been played because apparently Trey Van Cleve and John Stern did not know that they had a feature match. So they had to move over and play out their match. So this is exactly the board state that was going on. Currently, Trey Van Cleve's at 19, John is at 16, and this is the board that we're looking at.
And just in time for the action.
Exactly. The first two turns, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, lay them out and lay a swamp.
This is where all the decisions are made. So it looks like Trey Van Cleve is running a pretty solid red-black deck with a ton of removal spells, and John is on a red-black deck, splashing a little bit of green. I'm going to guess Kurt Chieftain, just in the dark.
The usual splash.
Yeah. What do we have here? It is a Kurt Chieftain.
Although a little less usual.
The Miner's Bane.
The Miner's Bane.
Hey, sometimes you need top end.
6/3 for 6.
Yeah,
Powerful
gets
card.
in there. Trample.
Yeah, Miner's Bane doesn't make the main real often. It's pretty bad.
23rd card.
26th.
26th card, but hey. When life gives you 22 playable cards, you gotta make do. All right, so Trey playing in a Curse Spirit, which is one of Black's strongest commons, but obviously in this matchup, not at its best.
Yeah. It's kind of an ugly board. I mean, it's going to be hard for anyone to do anything.
Just a bunch of medium creatures on the battlefield.
Yeah. I mean, some of these creatures are decent in some situations, but
Right.
the Cursed Spirit bad against black, the Typhoid Rat holding off the big Zoff Shade.
Yeah, they're all just kind of the same.
Yeah. Oh, well,
Wow.
there you go.
How about that Miner's Bane now?
I mean, sure. But how about that Cone of Flame?
How about that Cone of Flame? So yeah, John plays a Cone of Flame here, which is going to completely decimate Trey Van Cleve's board. I don't know what he's going to be targeting, but I'm assuming it's going to be some combination of...
I mean, I would guess the Cursed Spirit, the Zoff Shade, and the Torch Fiend.
Right.
Because, I mean, the Zoff Shade is a little bit scarier than the Rough Rider, I think. And the Cursed Spirit is strictly better than the Rough Rider.
Right.
So.
I suppose, but if he leaves a 3-power creature, he cannot attack with the Miner's Bane this turn, although it's probably not that relevant. I don't know.
That's what he was deciding, I guess.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the Zoff Shade could get big. It
Right.
could stop his team somehow.
Yeah. And getting in for some damage now, and then being able to untap and at least give the Miner's Bane trample when he attacks is probably not the
Yeah.
worst.
I don't really think he's that worried about it. It's like, okay, if you want to trade, you can, and then the Rough Rider's gone too. If not, then you'll just take 5 here. My Miner's Bane is chilling. I'm under
Yeah.
no pressure.
And that's the thing, the Goblin Rough Rider is just, is he going to block here or is he going to keep it back for the Miner's Bane? He's got an actual decision here to
Yeah,
make.
I mean, Trey's probably going to keep it back unless he has other cards in hand that blank the
Right.
Miner's Bane. But I mean, either way, you're trying to think, how can I lose here? And somewhere down the line, that Zoff Shade could be scary. It could stop a lot of attackers.
Right.
That Rough Rider cannot stop a lot of attackers. It actually
Just trades with anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't even blank a single creature in play. It just trades.
Right.
So.
So Trey opting to take the 5 damage here so that he could use the Goblin Rough Rider to trade with the Miner's Bane, hopefully. Looks like, is that a Covenant of Blood?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, if he does have a Covenant, that would be one of the reasons to trade, because then
Right.
you would just Covenant the Miner's Bane, and he's going to use Covenant, I assume, if it's a Covenant, and if he doesn't
Yeah,
have other options.
Exactly. Yeah, Covenant probably just attack.
I I don't know about attack.
You don't like the attack here?
Well, I mean, you're pretty far behind. I don't know what his deck has to offer.
Okay, well, that's not a Covenant of Blood, but that's pretty good.
Right. I mean, that's a different ballgame. That makes his play make perfect sense because the Siege Dragon's not going to block Miner's Bane this turn.
Exactly.
So you keep the Rough Rider around to block Miner's Bane.
Right.
If his plan was going to be to Covenant Miner's Bane, you might as well just block with the Rough Rider and then Covenant the Miner's Bane.
Yeah. So, I mean, Trey just hoping that he gets an untap. He gets to untap and attack with that Siege Dragon.
Right.
Or that his Goblin Rough Rider will live to block the Miner's Bane.
Right. If John doesn't have any removal, he's in real rough waters. If John kills the Siege Dragon, it is Trey who has his back to the wall.
Yeah.
The whole game right now is pretty much hedging on that Siege Dragon.
Yeah. If he has removal, he'll be in pretty rough shape.
But it's not even like close if he doesn't. I mean, if John doesn't have removal and he alphas, the Rough Rider trades with the Miner's Bane, then the Siege Dragon goes to work, right?
Yeah, it just kills the Typhoid Rats and the Generator
Yeah,
Servant.
it's 6 for 2 after that.
Exactly.
So, I mean, really the Siege Dragon is just going to,
Yeah, and Trey is still like at a reasonable life total here. Even if he activates the Miner's Bane, like he'll be able to get in for 5.
Yeah.
I guess if he doesn't have an answer, he's just going to attack with the 1 toughness creatures, right? Like just attack with everything.
Oh yeah. If John's hand is empty, he'll probably send everything. I mean, the Frog obviously wouldn't necessarily die. The Siege Dragon does 2 to everything, I believe.
Sure, yeah.
But I mean, you're not worried about it.
Right. At the same time, do you think Trey wants to? I don't think Trey wants to block with the Siege Dragon here. There's just so many cards that would be able to like get him here, right?
Yeah.
Although like a Splash Titanic Growth doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
But Lightning Strike, Stoke the Flame, those are all reasonable cards that he could have.
But if he takes too much damage, he dies to those somehow anyway. But I don't know if he'll block or not. I'm not sure about the Miner's Bane not attacking. I mean, John must have other things to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know what they're going to be. There's a lot going on, really.
Yeah. Although it looks like if you're Trey, do you trade off the Goblin Rough Rider with the Witch's Familiar?
Yeah. Well, it depends because like if the Siege Dragon attacks, it can't stop the Miner's Bane anymore, which has been the Rough Rider's job.
Right.
So I mean, it depends on what Trey's last card is. I mean, you don't have to deal with the Witch's Familiar. You could just take 5, attack with the Siege Dragon, just ignore the Witch's Familiar. The Siege Dragon's certainly going to kill John before the Witch's Familiar is going to kill Trey.
Sure. Although at the same time, if Trey takes 5 here, goes to 9, and then uses the Rough Rider to block the Miner's Bane, he's still going to take a ton of trample damage, and then he might just get burned out.
Yep, that's true. I mean, I don't know what Trey's last card is.
Right.
If Trey's last card is something that can stop the Miner's Bane, then I think I definitely like this trade. If Trey's last card is not something to stop the Miner's Bane, I might block the Witch's Familiar with the Siege Dragon. I don't necessarily mind losing to a Stoke, because like you said, if he has nothing else anyway, when he trades the Rough Rider for the Miner's Bane, he's still going to take a bunch of damage, and he's going to lose to Stoke anyway, I think.
True.
And there aren't very many cards. There's a Splash Titanic Growth, which would probably win the game anyway. There's a Stoke, which would probably win the game anyway.
Lightning Strike would be a way to deal with the...
Yeah, I mean, there's really just not that much.
A Rodfeaster Maggot seems pretty good here.
Yeah.
Putting John up to 19 life. So yeah, Trey trying to play a little conservatively by not blocking with the Siege Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, I think that comes down to your hand. If he has the Covenant, like you said, then I definitely like his play.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, because now there's no reason to make that risky block, because you're going to Covenant away the Miner's Bane.
Exactly. Now it looks like...
Now this is a race you feel like you can win.
Right. Interesting, no attack from Trey.
Does Siege Dragon not do what I think it does?
I thought when it attacks, deals 2 damage to all ground creatures.
That's what I thought as well, as long as the person doesn't have any walls, right? When it comes into play, it destroys all walls.
Yeah, it destroys walls. But
and then I think
it can definitely attack if they have a wall.
It can attack. I don't think it does the 2 if they have a wall. I might have like one of these little details wrong. But
I know when it comes into play, it destroys all defenders because he's a Siege Dragon.
Right.
And then when he attacks, he deals 2 damage to all things on the ground.
If they don't control a wall, I believe. But
is that the qualifier?
I believe. I could be wrong.
Despite there's just no walls on the battlefield.
So either way,
right.
we think it would have dealt 2 to the Typhoid Rat and the Generator Servant.
Right.
And if that's the case, it should certainly have attacked, right?
Right. I mean, he's at 11 life.
It can't block the Typhoid Rat anyway. You're trading 6 damage, and now you would be taking 1, and if you and you would be taking 3 instead. So you're taking 2 extra damage to deal 6 and kill a Typhoid Rat and a Generator Servant.
Right.
It's hard for that to be wrong.
I would just does that. I guess maybe it's just because I don't play the rare very often, but I would just be very excited to attack with the Siege Dragon there.
And John already bluffed last turn or has something that would take it down if it blocks. So he's going to go ahead and send the... I don't really understand some of the plays going on in this game. Maybe the card doesn't do exactly what I think. Like, why is the Typhoid Rat back?
I think he has Covenant of Blood. That would explain it.
That would make sense, yeah.
Yeah, because that was like the only reason why he would keep the Typhoid Rat back is to play some kind of a convoke spell.
Yeah, and Covenant of Blood makes sense because he sent the Witch's Familiar into the 6/6.
Exactly.
Okay. So if you're Trey now, the Covenant's been somewhat telegraphed. But yeah, I just don't get why you didn't send the Siege Dragon. Does it not do 2 creatures like we think?
I believe it does. I mean, maybe. All right. Well, Trey once again a difficult spot. I feel like you just block the Rotfeaster Maggot.
Well, I mean, if
you're
you
gonna
go
block
6, Covenant's gonna have you at 2. So you can't even attack, or you'd be in Rotfeaster Covenant range.
Right.
I really don't know why the Siege Dragon didn't attack. I'm not trying to harp on a play, but I'm trying to figure out the reasons. Like, Trey is an okay Magic player. You know, he's got some GP success. You know, he's been in a lot of Pro Tours. Like, he knows what's going on. You know what I mean? And so, like, there's got to be like a reason or like reasons.
So then, what other card could you be playing around so that you don't block the Rotfeaster Maggot there instead of the Generated Servant, which you could kill by attacking?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Trey's played this game, honestly, like he doesn't know that Siege Dragon does 2 non-flyers when it attacks.
I feel like maybe he thinks it's just the dragon that kills walls.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Unless, like I said, we're just completely wrong. I don't know. But.
Yeah. Which I won't rule out. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the kind of thing where, like, I'm pretty sure that's what the card does, but I don't have the card in front of me and I can't read it on the screen.
Exactly.
So, I mean, like, I just want to throw in that there is that, 10%er that the card I'm just completely wrong on.
All right. It's like Trey has the Ulcerate for the Typhoid Rats. Man, which would have been great to kill the Rotfeaster Maggot, too.
The people in the chat seem to agree with us.
Okay.
Somebody said, Trey, read your cards, and someone said, I don't like his decision not to attack. So,
all right.
Going on the assumption that Siege Dragon does deal 2 damage to all creatures when it attacks, yes, he should have attacked.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that Trey just didn't know that.
Right. Now, it looks like Trey's in a lot of trouble. It's going to be pretty difficult for him to come back from this. Looks like, I believe Trey should have gone to 8 after the Ulcerate.
Yeah. And John did have the Covenant, so it would have been a really good game if Trey did make that attack.
Right. Because he would have been able to kill the small creatures, and he would have taken 3. On the following turn, he would have attacked again and ulcerated the Rotfeaster Maggot.
Right. But he does still have the Covenant, and he had the Brawler played he just drew. But if he kills the Rotfeaster before he can play it,
John just has no other creatures on the field.
Then he has no other creatures, and he probably wins with the Siege Dragon.
Yeah, so it looks like John actually took down the first game, and we're just going to head straight into the second game here. And Trey starting off with a Child of Night on turn 2. And John responding with a Torch Fiend. Trey did have an artifact, so it's not the worst.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 2 mana 2/1.
Yeah.
Always okay if you see a decent artifact or 2. Yeah. If not, you usually board it out unless your curve isn't that good.
Right.
Torch Fiend's like not exciting unless they have good artifacts, but
Yeah. If I was Trey, I'd be pretty happy about that. Just being able to trade and gain a couple life.
Attention players, preparing for GP Rebound Round 2 being posted. GP Rebound.
All right, Trey playing a Goblin Rough Rider there. He did have a Carrion Crow in his hand. What would you have opted to do there?
I'd probably play the Rough Rider.
Yeah.
It's an extra point of damage if your opponent doesn't have anything.
If he doesn't have anything.
The Carrion Crow's more likely to get in, but it's not like you're concerned because it's not like you're trying to race specifically.
Right.
So I probably just want to put up the more powerful creature right now.
Sure. Yeah. Although there's also something to be said, because Carrion Crow is an evasive creature that's hard to block early, you play that, guaranteed a damage, play the Rough Rider to block whatever maybe John could have played.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's definitely the better blocker, but when you're playing the guy first and you're going to get to attack first,
that
you're
is
not
true.
that interested in
He also did have a Stoke to Flame in his hand, which makes that attacking good. All right. So it looks like John doesn't have a whole lot of action here, although anything could change if he just plays a 5th land and Cone of Flame.
Specifically a Swamp also, like he's on 4 mountains.
Yeah. All right, well, here's the Forest. And do we have a Cone of Flame? There it is.
It's a very sick magic card.
Right. Looks like Trey's got a Necrobite, so I'd imagine he's going to save the Rough Rider here.
Yeah, definitely going to save the Rough Rider.
Yeah. All right. So, decent amount of pressure on John, I suppose. If Trey can drop something here, it would be very helpful. John still doesn't have any black mana.
And they're clearly not updating the life total on that little iPad.
Right.
John is somewhere at like 10 or so, not 20.
Yeah. He's definitely done 3 and 6, so 11 damage. 9 damage, I believe.
3, 3, and 5, right?
Did he take 5-1 turn?
Did the carrying crow not attack once? Oh, it came into play tapped, so I don't know if it actually attacked.
Right, and then he played a Cone of Flame. Looks like Rod Feaster Maggot doing a really good job of it's just like the perfect card here.
Yeah. The equipment in play, that's a Brawler's Plate, right?
That is a Brawler's Plate, yes. Which, Trey dropping a nice shiny Obnixilis, the Fallen, which John has to answer, but John does have 2 copies of Covenant of Blood in his deck, so really needs to have one here.
Yeah.
But it looks like he's tanking, so...
Yeah, if he doesn't, I mean, he is ahead. No, he's the one who took the damage. Yeah, it's hard without seeing the life totals.
Right.
So if he Brawler's Plate and attacked, Trey would just take it and swing back for 7, and this is a race where he's getting crushed in.
Yeah,
so that's not really an option.
That doesn't seem like a very good option.
If he has a Covenant, I don't know why he would be deep in the tank, right?
Exactly.
So he must not have a Covenant.
Yeah. Ooh, a splashed... No. Is this an Inferno Fist?
That makes sense.
Okay. Double Inferno Fist. Wow.
It's interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess he maybe doesn't want 7 for 3 because he's behind in the race.
Right.
I'd have to know the exact life totals. I mean, if John is
I thought it was 11 to 20, but it could be
11. I'd probably go ahead and deal 7 for 3 now.
Yeah, just attack for 7, and Trey's going to take it. So
yeah, and if Trey blocked it, then you could still sack one of the Inferno Fists to kill the Rough Rider,
and then everything would be the board would be clear,
which I guess isn't really good for him. This is better than that, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Because he has a Brawler's Plate.
Yeah. So I guess this play is actually probably correct.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if Trey would block. I guess he would.
Would he have double blocks? Like, that's the only way that would make sense, right?
Well, if he blocks with just the Obnixilis, you sack 1 and kill the Rough Rider, you trade, but that's not a good trade for you because the Obnixilis would already die to the double.
Well, no.
Anyway.
It's a 7/5. The Obnixilis is a 4/4. He doesn't need to do anything. If he blocks with the Obnixilis, he just he just kills it. Yeah.
Yeah, but whatever. Isn't that the same thing? If he double blocks, then everything would trade or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. John's on top of things.
Yeah.
Is this another Rot Feaster Maggot, maybe? No, an Indulgent Tormentor.
And that's all the more reason not to trade like 5 for 3 or 7 for 3 even.
Yeah.
Because now you have this win condition.
Trey and John just with haymakers. Looks like Trey's got the answer here in the Stoke the Flames. Still needs to find an answer for that Rot Feaster Maggot Brawler's Plate, though. 5/7 Trampler, getting in there. Necrogen Scudder, all right. So I guess Trey has been at such a high life total, this is only going to put him to 14.
Yeah. And if John doesn't have any more creatures, he can't attack on the ground.
Right.
Even with he can't trade 5 for 3 right now, I don't think. If John does have more creatures, of course, then he can. Or a Covenant. Covenant would be huge.
Looks like Trey actually attacked with the Goblin Rough Rider, and John chose to take it.
Was the Rot Feaster Maggot tapped?
How did he get tapped?
I thought it might have attacked last turn when he played the...
perhaps he did, yeah.
I don't know for sure. I mean, if it obviously, I don't think he would take it, because, I mean, he's at 8.
It looked like it was untapped.
Yeah.
All right, so the Scudder is still putting pressure on John. He is likely at 8 life. Oh, he did gain life off the Rot Feaster Maggot, though.
Okay,
so he's a
so
little bit
got
higher.
a little more life than I think. It's a pretty interesting game. I mean, it's hard to say exactly what you would do when you don't know the exact life totals.
Right. Ooh, but John dropping a Kurt Chieftain. Wow. So given that John didn't attack this turn, it's probably pretty safe to conclude that he's probably at a
fairly low
life total, almost
he's playing
dead.
very conservatively, John. He's not dealing much damage, and the Scudder is still going to kill him. So
right.
It feels like he thinks he couldn't have raced.
Right. It feels like for him to get back into this game, he likely needs to draw something like a Covenant of Blood to deal with the Scudder, and then perhaps he could, slowly draw creatures. But it looks like the Scudder actually got it done, and Trey Van Cleve ties it up 1-1.
Yeah, I mean, that was interesting. I mean, without knowing the exact life totals, I can't say. But there's a chance I would have played a lot more aggressively than John did.
All right. So it looks like we're heading... Since this match was time shifted, we can just go straight on to the next game here. And this time, Trey Van Cleve with the Torch Fiend. And, no, man, I thought John Stewart was going to play a Child of Night, and they would just reverse.
All kinds of 2-mana 2-1s flying all over the place.
which generally is not where you want to be, but when you're red-black, you don't have too many other good... There's not that many good 2-drops you can play. If any. Is there like Generator Servant maybe is probably the best one? Oh, Borderland Marauder.
Borderland Marauder is the best one.
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh, Trey with another very aggressive start here. John opting to keep the Generator Servant alive. Looks like he has does he have a Cone of Flame there? Just to update you guys, the life totals will be returning very shortly. Currently, John is at 18 and Trey is at 17 life. This is interesting. If let's say hypothetically, John had a Cone of Flame here, would you fire it off?
Well, he needs 5 mana.
Excuse me?
Doesn't Generator Servant only cast creatures? Can you
No,
use it for anything?
it just taps for mana. Like you can sack it for 2 mana.
Oh, and it only gives haste to creatures?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously not like you can give a spell haste, but I didn't know that actually. Kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
Well, I probably wouldn't fire it off anyway, though.
Yeah, because
Why not let him
in
play
red-black,
another
all the creatures are so small. Like
Right.
you can get a lot of value out of the cone.
Right. Why not let him play another guy either way?
The 2-for-1 is just so enticing here. Do you block?
It really depends on your hand. I mean, if you've got a lot of ammunition, then
Yeah.
you're going to block. But if you need that Scudder, like if you're planning on riding that Scudder to victory, then you're not going to block.
Yeah. So it looks like Trey opting to take the damage here. And John killing it right away to prevent possibly some Convoke shenanigans. Oh, Inferno Fist on the Scudder. But he doesn't have red mana available, so if John does have removal spell,
Yeah, kind of risky.
yeah, a little bit risky. But Trey's done a good chunk of damage so far. He's got 2, 3, then 5, so John should be at 10 life. And Trey's taken 3 and 4, so he should be at 13. Yeah, 13 to 13. So for those of you guys just tuning in, the life totals are on the bottom, and it is currently 13 to 13. We are in Game 3 of Round 5 of Grand Prix Salt Lake.
Having the life totals on the bottom like that is actually awesome when they update it. Like,
Yeah, definitely. So it looks like John has a lot of options, but not any lands. So this Generator Servant might be used soon, but he's got to be very careful with what he wants to do with it. Or not.
Judge Jeff Foster is coming to the
All right.
stage, or the side event stage.
So Trey not punished for putting the Inferno Fist on the Necrotis Cutter, so just
yeah.
5/3 flyer just getting in there.
Still a pretty close race, though.
Yeah, but it looks like Trey also has an Ulcerate in his hand. Which, obviously not great for racing, but could lead to some potential blowouts. I guess now Trey considering whether or not an attacking would be good here. So he's got a Maggot that he cannot cast. All right. So Trey bashing in 4, 5. Taking John to 8. At this point, knowing that John is stalled on lands, would you kill the Generator Servant?
Yeah, it's definitely a reasonable play. What are Trey's potential?
He could also choose to ulcerate.
Excuse me, guys.
He could also choose to ulcerate the Generator Servant just to keep additional damage in there.
Right, I'm saying, like, what is the rest of Trey's hand? Like, he's going to want to play his Ulcerate, but
Yeah.
if you go lower, you just can't even play it.
That's true.
So, what is the rest of his hand? Does he have plays?
Oh, it looks like Trey has a Necrobite, so he really just wants to leave the 3 mana up to protect the Scudder.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know what killing the
Witch is familiar.
Witch is familiar did there instead of killing the Generator Servant.
Yeah,
'cause
it seems like a better play.
Yeah, it feels like Generator Servant might be one of the few ways that John could actually come back and win this game.
Yeah, I agree. I would kill the Generator Servant over the Witch is familiar.
Yeah, because what if John went, land, sack, play a Scuttling Doom Engine, attack for 6?
Yeah.
Then actually, Trey would have to have an answer for that.
I mean, they're both doing the same amount of damage, and you're not in a position to block either one. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess he has the...
They both have 2 power,
Yeah, I guess he can kill the...
Generator Servant with the
yeah.
fist, but
Right. So, like, I'm not 100% on which play I would make, but it seems like Trey is winning the race by keeping the fist on the scudder. So it seems unlikely that he wants to sack the fist to kill the generator.
Exactly. It also just feels like the Witch's Familiar is not doing a whole lot. So why not, potentially go for the creature that could get John out of this?
Yeah, I like that play better.
Yeah. All right, here we go. 2 mana.
Maybe he's gonna cone or something, like you said.
I believe he had a Rotfeaster Maggot. He could also just play that hasted.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if there's a giant creature in the yard.
Gain
There's a
some
Witch's Familiar, so he's actually going to gain more life because that got ulcerated.
Yeah.
Wow. So now this is a race. John's going to go back up to 11 after removing Witch's Familiar from the graveyard. He's just going to bash in for 3.
So, I mean, that was a pretty good swing.
Yeah.
But this is still a race that
Trey's
winning. Right?
Yeah.
6, 2, well, yeah, and then 1, and then sack the
So is Trey actually
fist,
at 5?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Trey, if nobody played another spell, would still win this race, right?
Right.
He hits Stern to 5, goes to 2, hits him to 1, and then sacks the fist.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
So John still needs to draw a removal spell for that Necrogen Scudder.
yeah. Or
There's-
just something that does some damage.
Yeah.
Of virtually any kind.
So it looks like Trey really needs to draw some lands. I see an Ob Nixilis, a Rotfeaster Maggot, a Goblin Rough Rider, and a Necrobite. So
So pretty much nothing that does anything.
he actually cannot do anything right now. So his only play is really just attacking here.
Right. So this
And
comes
playing
down
a
to,
Rough Rider.
Will John Stern have anything?
Yeah. Hope you don't.
Yeah. Like if John kills that Scudder, if John even maybe musters a flyer, if he has like a lightning strike or something, like he's almost certainly going to win.
Yeah.
If John only has random ground creatures, can't do anything about the Scudder, then he's going to die to it.
All right, John draws land number 4. John's certainly making a game out of this, being stuck on 3 lands for a while. I guess Trey's also got some heavy hitters in his hand, but hasn't been able to cast them. Which mana-screwed opponent will come out on top of this game? All right, Trey instantly blocks here because he knows that his game plan's all about that Necrogen Scudder.
Yeah.
So John plays Generator Servant, and I feel like this is likely going to be the game.
Yeah, there's not much he can have here, right?
Yeah. Goes to 1. All right, I'm at 1. Sack it. Oh, there you go. Welcome back, guys. We are in Grand Prix Salt Lake City. I'm here with Ben Stark. We just saw a pretty interesting match. A lot of back and forth in that match.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of interesting, kind of cool.
Yeah.
Kind of rough sometimes when you don't know what the cards do. I mean, it's definitely. I know, like, everybody plays different amounts and gets to practice different amounts for every tournament. Everybody thinks that every pro just spends like 1,000 hours memorizing every card. That's not really the case.
Yeah.
That said, it's in your deck and you're playing in a Grand Prix, so you should probably be reading it and knowing what your card in your
Especially
deck
when it's your rare.
Yeah.
So that was a bit unfortunate, but Trey still came out on top despite the problems with the Siege Dragon.
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like that was our time-shifted match. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and then we're going to be heading into round 6 with Ben Stark and Luis Scott Vargas.
sleeves, but
Well, doesn't that mean Ben has the advantage? Because he's probably more comfortable if he's not wearing sleeves.
I don't know, style over comfort. That's all Ben you're saying.
That is my motif right there.
So Ben, it looks like, is on blue-black, which I assume is a control deck because blue-black in this format tends to be very controlling. There's just not the tools for beatdown. Well can turn aside.
Yeah. Sperling is playing 9 Far, 6 Plains, so he's green-white like most people. 2 Evolving Wilds, so he and I will get along.
Yeah, exactly.
No splash, just, a 2-color deck. And,
Yeah, we've got two-color decks here. No splashes, no lightning strikes coming out of nowhere.
But I was more commenting on the Evolving Wilds and the 2-color deck.
Yeah, which, as we discussed a couple times, is the sort of thing that we're both in favor of.
Yeah, I'm just making jokes. I've been bickering with a lot of people about that back and forth.
Well, they're not in the booth, are they?
They are not. They do not. Have
There's a
voice.
reason for that.
Yeah.
I actually don't know if the two are connected in any way, shape, or form.
No, of course not.
But
But being in the booth, we will take advantage of this.
yeah, we have a platform where to advance our side of the argument, and other people do not. In some ways, you could actually call it unfair.
Like all of life.
So, looking at these, Ben actually does not look like he's got anything incredibly bomby, except he's got just 2 good 5-drop flyers. He's got Indulgent Tormentor and Master of Predicaments. So that's, the good classic finishers for the blue-black deck, but not like a Soul or anything like that.
Yeah, Sperling has bombs. They're not Soul of Theros or anything like that, or Hornet Queen. But he does have Scuttling Doom Engine. He does have Clonian Twin Grove. And he has a Triplicate Spirits.
So that should be interesting to see how those all line up. Players are ready, I'm told, so we're going to head down to the feature match area. And you can tell that that's Ben, because again, no sleeves.
Hey, I love it. I've played a lot of tournaments in track pants and basketball shorts. I usually wear sleeves, but, if my arms get nice enough, then there's a shot I'll stop.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Though apparently he was forced to roll up the Josh McClain playmat.
That's weird. What was wrong with the Josh McClain playmat?
Well, I think we want to keep the red zone nice and clean here, just so it's clear what's going on.
Oh, I see, just because it's a feature match.
Yeah. And apparently there's been an accusation levied that you cut someone in line for pizza at the M15, at Pro Tour M15.
Who?
Someone who's at the Pro Tour, presumably.
I guess, it's possible.
How do you respond to these allegations, Ben? The public wants to know.
If I got away with it, then that's great. What kind of sucker waits in line?
You almost got away with it, except you're getting brought to justice right now.
I don't know what the justice is going to be. I hope it's not too swift.
So, Matt, with the turn 2 Elvish Mystic, which, could be he has a Forest turn 2, most likely it means he drew Elvish Mystic turn 2. But it's going to get tapped down by Frostlinks for the time being. And it actually looks like Matt's missing a land drop here.
But he does have drops, right?
Yeah, he has both a Sungrace Pegasus and a Sunblade Elf, so he's got relevant things to advance the board. I think he defaulted to playing not only the 2-drop that uses mana better, also the one that can actually attack. You're not trading Sunblade Elf for a Frostlinks.
Right, and Ben is most likely going to have something to prevent the Sunblade Elf from attacking on the following turn. So this way you get in the flyer that's going to do something, and then next turn I think he can play a Midnight Guard even if he doesn't draw a land to kind of gum up the ground a little bit.
Yeah, and having the Elf means that he's actually got relevant plays. He was only on 2 mana last turn, but because of the Frostlinks, but he's now on 3. He actually can play most of the cards in his hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's mana stunted a little, but he's not mana screwed,
Yeah.
Like, he can cast cards.
Like, he can Invasive Species to untap his forest, though I don't know if that's actually going to help him do anything.
Well, he casts a Sunblade Elf, but it's not super relevant.
Yeah, Typhoid Rats and Frostlinks both keep Sunblade Elf back. Typhoid Rats actually keeps species back,
honestly, being nowhere near 5, it depends on what Ben does, but it's possible he'll just attack with the Sunblade Elf.
Yeah, I think you would want to trade it for Typhoid Rats if that were offered. Like, if Ben attacked with Typhoid Rats, I think Matt would actually have a pretty good shot of blocking with Sunblade Elf.
But you don't want to trade it with Frostling, because that's just a bad trade.
Yeah, that's just strictly a downgrade.
I agree, yeah.
The blue-black deck playing the Convoke card earlier. So Matt actually hit a 3rd land here. So Matt is not really mana screwed. He can actually cast all the spells in his hand except for Charging Rhino. And I actually don't think Matt wants to draw a bunch of lands here. I think he'd rather just keep drawing spells.
Yeah, 1 land lets him threaten the Sunblade Elf, which might be somewhat relevant. He's actually either has or is bluffing Gather Courage right now.
Well, he played the Green Paragon.
Oh, he played the Green
Paragon. So he's offering the trade there.
Now for a second.
And, this seems like a pretty productive turn for Matt here. I mean, he's happy to trade invasive species for a Willforged Golem, given that there's a Typhoid Rats in play.
Yeah.
And he gets to cast one of the more expensive cards in his hand.
Yeah, and like you don't know if that Paragon's going to live. So by trading right there, you effectively still trade a 3/3/4/4/4 because against a blue-black opponent, if Ben wants, there's a good chance he can kill the green Paragon.
Yeah, and so getting the trade while Green Paragon's active, yeah, is definitely stronger. Yeah,
it lets you get value out.
I mean, when you're playing the Green-White Mirror, you're not in a big hurry because you don't think it's going anywhere. But when you're playing against Blue-Black, yeah, there's a lot of cards that kill or bounce it instead of like I don't think Matt can make that attack while Ben has 5 mana up, for example, because then you're just asking to get the Green Paragon flushed to dusted.
Right. So you want to get value out of it where you can, and that was he got value. He traded up there.
So Ben kind of in a spot where he actually isn't really getting anything done here, and Matt's got all spells. So actually Matt is kind of ahead here. Matt's actually able to play more cards and has actually more access to more spells because he operates on less land, presumably. I mean, that's one of the advantages of the green-white deck.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much know Matt's hand. We haven't really seen Ben's hand. Obviously, the supposed advantage of the blue-black side of this is going to be the more powerful spells.
Yeah.
Is Ben going to cast, Stormtide Leviathan or...
No, I can rule that one out because we have deck lists.
Yeah, but Jace's Ingenuity, and then have a bunch of extra stuff to do.
Right. I mean, he's got Illusory Angel, Master Predicaments, Indulgent Tormentor. Like he has powerful 5-drops. I mean, even Nimbus is actually decent here.
Yeah, but Nimbus is decent, but not like the other two you just named.
Right. Those are on a different level. Evolving Wilds actually. See, look, the anti-Evolving Wilds camp is celebrating right now.
Yeah.
Except Matt can still just cast Roaring Primadox. He doesn't have to cast, Charging Rhino this turn.
Well, yeah. Also, it's obviously better if it was coming into play on tap land in this spot. But how minimal is the cost? Like you said, he can just cast Roaring Primadox instead or Midnight Guard instead. He wouldn't really want to use Sunblade Elf here anyway. Like it doesn't do anything this turn, I don't think. Like he's not going to make a different attack, right? Like let's pretend that was a Plains. What's he going to attack with? On the other hand, let's pretend that it gave him a second color. That's the difference between winning and losing almost every time in Limited.
Yeah, I mean, the game we saw Marshall lose in round 1 where he was on 3 planes, if one of those was an Evolving Wilds, he, I think, would have won that game.
Yeah, he probably wins. I mean, this is a drawback, but this is minor. So he cast a Primadox instead of a Charging Rhino, use bonus mana. Now he'll go get his planes, and for the rest of the game, he'll have 5
Yeah,
mana.
it did not change a ton. It's actually not even necessarily strictly a downgrade, because if he trades Primadox for Typhoid Rats, he's actually happier than trading Charging Rhino for Typhoid Rats.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I don't know if Matt has any combos in his deck with Primadox. It's obviously great as a 4-mana 4/4, especially with a lot of 1-drops.
Well, he's got Clony and Twin Growth.
That's actually a sick combo.
He does. Oh, wow, I missed this too when I was looking at his deck. He's got a Nissa also. Not that it's a combo with that, I just noticed that. But he has 2 Living Totems. Matt's deck looks fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, he is 5-0, so...
Yeah, I gave it a quick scan for Soul of Theros and Hornet Queen.
Yeah, those are the 2 big ones.
Yeah, but he's got a lot of powerful cards here. He even has 2 Pillar of Light, which I like a lot in Sealed.
Yeah.
Green-white can't remove souls, so that's one of the biggest problems these good green-white decks have, is your opponent's just like any soul, and you're like, well, you're going to get to use that every turn for the rest of the game. But if you have a Pillar, that's just a huge swing.
And Pillar's actually quite good against Ben. Well, it's good against Master Predicaments. I guess it actually does not stop Indulgent Tormentor, so I don't even know if this is... It stops Illusory Angel, too. You probably need at least one of the Pillars. It's possible you don't want both, though.
Clearly against a blue-black deck, where one of the rares is 3 toughness, it's not going to be where Pillar shines. But green-white is pretty good against decks like that anyway.
Right.
Green-white's problem is, it can't beat giant things bigger than it can't beat souls, things that Pillar is pretty good against in general.
Matt's deck looks like... I mean, obviously, he would rather have switched one of his bombs to the slightly higher tier of them, but otherwise it looks really good. It's just got a good curve, and it's got 2 pillars, and it's got, a couple bombs. It's got everything you really want.
A lot of synergy, the Green Paragon, the Mystic, the Living Totems, and the Primadox, Nissa. And, some bomb... Nissa is a bomb that's kind of hard to deal with for some decks. Clone and Twin Grove, even if they kill it, you still got another one. Triplicate Spirits is hard to deal with.
Actually, Matt drew a nice little combo himself. He drew Living Totem, which is one of the combos with Roaring Primadox, especially with this many creatures in play. Mm-hmm. He is just going to attack right away, and he's representing the activated ability of Sunblade Elf, which I think he'd rather have Ben kill off the Sunblade Elf than the Primadox here, given that he has Living Totem. Well, it looks like they're both going down, though. Necrobite making it so, just killing off the Primadox and and the Typhoid Rats trading for the Sunblade Elf. That was pretty good for Ben.
Yeah, I mean, clearly that wasn't good for Matt, but Matt does have plenty more business. So
Yeah, he's got a lot left, but Necrobite trading for a Primadox. I mean, Necrobite can be a very good card against Green-White. It's probably one of the better, places.
One of the first games in our playtesting, I tried to go for a really good Necrobite against Ephro when he was tapped out, and he had the Devouring
Ephemeral
Light.
Shields? Oh, Devouring Light, that's even worse.
He destroyed me.
Yeah, Convoke cards lead to some nice blowouts. It's pretty interesting when you like play a creature and then attack, you're just representing a Convoke card so hard. Like, Ephemeral Shields, Devouring Light, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And in other formats, you'd never play a creature before attacking. Here you can actually use it to bluff.
Yeah, it is pretty exciting. Just play a tap out playing like a red guy, and then they're like, oh, he must have crowd's favor.
Yeah. Ben's actually kind of beating down here. He just smashed Matt for 5 more in the air and played another 3-power flyer. Matt's actually, at this point, slightly behind. I mean, that last turn was pretty good for Ben.
Yeah. It's a 2-turn clock from here, I think, for Ben against Matt. Matt's not at 15, right? He took a few damage from the flyers, I think.
They're keeping track of life, but it's possible that they're at a little lower. It looks like 15-11.
Yeah, no, I mean, he could be at 15. I'm not really sure how much he took.
Well, he presumably gained a little bit off some great
Either way, it's a
Pegasus.
2-turn clock, right? It's
he smashes for
8
and then 8.
So the question is, can Ben survive 2 turns? And I mean, he probably can. He already has a chump blocker. There's only one creature attacking.
The only problem is that Sungrace Pegasus is still in Matt's hand, and playing that and like putting a counter on it stops the Welcome Turn from attacking and can just crack back and gain 2 life. So it's a little tougher.
Yeah.
I mean, Matt has at the very least he can just play Sungrace Pegasus and chump one of the 3/3 flyers.
Right, which will make it 3 turns instead of 2.
Yeah.
Although now it says Sperling's at 10, which feels more correct.
Yeah,
to me,
that seems accurate.
I'm not 100%.
Still, a 2/3 flying lifelink is pretty good because it can keep the turn back and you can still chump block a 3, so it can save you like 7 damage right there. So I think Ben needs like one more spell. It doesn't have to be a good one though. It can be something as simple as a chump blocker, though the Green Paragon does give Charging Rhino trample.
Yeah, and that's a lot of damage. Did Ben just take it on his last turn?
I think so, yeah. Which seems reasonable. I mean, I think he's still at a point where he doesn't have to just go all in on racing.
No, he doesn't have to. But he does have to end the game sooner rather than later because he can't double block the Charging Rhino because of its ability.
Right, and with the Green Paragon out, I mean, it's hard to stop it from getting through for some amount of damage.
I mean, unless he has removal, he basically can't stop it. Like, he can chump it, even if he only takes 2 trample or something, but he can't double block it, so he kind of has to race. He's kind of forced to race by Charging Rhino's ability, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't need to start throwing away Frostlinks to save 2 damage yet, but yes, he does. Unless he has a removal spell, he's going to have to race pretty quickly here.
And it looks like he's trying to count the board, try and figure out if he's going to be the winner or loser of the race.
And I think he's the loser here just because of the 2/3 Sungrace Pegasus. So like this turn, let's say Matt takes 6 going to 4, and then he can block a 3/3 flyer, go up to 6, then go to 1. So he's got like multiple turns just off that Pegasus. And that's assuming Matt doesn't have anything else. And Matt gets to maybe attack with like Living Totem too. It's a 3/4. So I think Ben is going to need another card here.
Yeah. Something that killed the Paragon would be nice. Or if not, something that killed the Sungrace Pegasus would
something
be
like
nice.
Appeal from Reality would be pretty good.
And there it is.
There's a Covenant.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that means that the Gargoyle Sentinel can't attack, but that doesn't actually change the clock if Matt doesn't have anything.
No, now he's pretty much got it in hand. I mean,
Yeah. And
there are
Matt-
things Matt could do, but Matt is not killing him this turn unless he draws something real nice.
Yeah, Matt needs to draw something. Ben's actually at 15, not 6. I think the judge actually misinterpreted what happened with that Covenant.
Yeah.
And Siege Room is not going to do it. So Matt's at 5 and Ben's at 15.
Yeah. Yeah, the life totals have been a little haywire this game, but reading the board and Ben's plays, I think it's pretty likely that Matt dies to the 8 power worth of flyers next turn.
Right. And Matt doesn't have anything that can particularly affect that. He can attack for a bunch of damage between the Skirmisher and all his green creatures, but Ben's got enough life and an excess Frostlinks that's not even doing anything, so kind of a desperation attack from Matt.
I mean, you gotta imagine this was just gonna be Frostlinks chumping Charging Rhino, right?
Yeah, that saves the most damage. Then Matt takes 6, or Ben takes 6, going to 9. Looks like he's actually just taking all of it.
I mean, that seems a little risky.
Because he dies to Titanic growth, I
Yeah.
believe. Yeah, he goes to
Completely
3 now.
unnecessarily.
But it looks like it's going to be fine.
Well, Matt didn't have Titanic
Yeah.
growth, but should
So
certainly.
so it was right. Is that? I believe that's how it works.
We've got people watching, Luis. You want to help them to play better, or
Ben should have trumped the Frostlinks on the charging rhino, whether or not he won the game as a result. Let's just be clear. You're just agreeing. You're just agreeing with him because his name is Ben.
all Ben stick together? We were actually talking about on the ride here, Mion and Yui, about multiple people with the same name in Magic. Like, who would be the second best Luis, or who's the second best Owen?
I don't know of a second release.
Right, but Ben's, I think I determined.
I win by default.
Yeah, but Ben's have the strongest contingent, I think. We have Ben Rubin.
Ben Rubin was the name I was
Right.
thinking of. Yeah.
Right, so we have 2 Hall of Famers now, right? And then there's
Sick
other
Hall of Fame, bro.
Yeah, I know, obviously. And then there's other Bens who are good too, right? You got Ben Friedman, you got
Yeah.
Ben Lundquist.
Oh yeah.
I think the Bens are like just a really strong contingent.
That is true. The Owens are looking pretty good though.
Who's the other Owen?
Right.
Yeah. Paul actually came up because we were like talking about it. We're like, the second best Paul and whatever, and you got Cheon and Reitzel.
Yeah. But I think the winner there is pretty clear. I don't know. Do you think Paul Cheon makes the top 5 Pauls or top 5 Cheons?
Oh, I think so. In Magic, I mean, I don't know about in the world.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on what metric we are.
It's surprising because it feels like some of these names are so common, but there actually aren't that many pros with the same of each name. Like we started going through even the really popular ones like Chris
John
and Mike and John and stuff, and there'll be like 2, but that's it. There's not like 6 good Johns or whatever. Like professional. I'm not saying.
How many Kais are there?
2.
Really?
Yeah. There's another one who's playing Pro Tours. I mean, he doesn't have Kai Boudier's resume. But
Well, that's because no one does.
Yeah.
Because he is the best.
you can't think of him. He's actually American, I believe. Obviously, maybe of German ancestry or something.
I don't know.
Kai Burnett. You ever heard of him?
No.
Oh, yeah. He, I mean, he's not like super big, but I mean, I've definitely seen his name in like GP.
I thought you were talking about like Mate Zadelkai.
Tours or something. No. Names I can't pronounce, I don't include.
I just said it, Mate Zadelkai.
If that's right, that's astounding.
All right, well, it is right, but let's move on.
How is it possible that in English you can pronounce his last name? I saw the letters and stuff, and I was just like, ugh.
That would be Big Z for is what his friends
That's
call
what
him.
I call him.
I think that's why Americans call him Big Z. Awesome dude, though.
Yeah.
So, I can't imagine that Ben is siding a ton here. I mean, he's not going to side in like Mind Rot. He's not going to side in Endless Obedience. So I like both those cards in the right matchup. There's not a particular blue card that looks that good either. Hydro Surge I actually like as a sideboard against a bunch of Hunt the Weeks, but he didn't see any of those. And he's basically playing all his other playables otherwise. Hot Soup is a card which Matt might side in some matchups, but
Not
Ben
against-
already has a bunch of flyers, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really help there.
Hot Soup is only for strictly if they're just straight trying to control you with ground blockers and stuff. If you might have to race at some point, Hot Soup is really bad.
Yeah. But it's better than Cold Soup. Cold Soup is just unappetizing.
I hope they print Cold Soup next year.
I don't think they will, but is that because you're a flavor judge?
I love flavor.
See, you heard it from Ben right here. He loves flavor.
Flavor's the best.
In fact, if the chat has any flavor-related questions, Ben would be glad to field them. I will transmit the questions to him.
Do you think Matt would bring in a Razorfoot Griffin just because it's a flyer?
Wow, his deck must be pretty good if he does not have Razorfoot Griffin in his deck.
I mean, it's not a great flyer. I mean, it doesn't beat a lot of the flyers
It
you saw.
doesn't beat the Nimbus or the Gargoyle, which is kind of tough.
He doesn't have a plummet, though, or anything like that. He has very, very little removal, Matt.
PB does not count in the top 5 Pauls. His name is Paulo.
Agreed. We actually discussed that.
Yeah,
came up.
and that was a separation.
And that was a separation. It's
Yeah,
not
that
the
makes
same
sense. So, actually, it looks like Matt may have switched colors here. Interesting.
name, which is really weird. I mean, I guess his white was a lot worse than his green, but it's still pretty good. I guess if he thinks the pillars aren't good, because he didn't see Master
That's true.
Predicaments.
Yeah, he didn't see a single pillar target except Willforged Golem.
Let's see what blue gives him. It gives him double Coral Barrier, which is nice because you get the 1/1 unblockable. It gives him Dissipate, which I like against a controller stack. Frostlinks, which is good. Jason's Ingenuity.
Actually, the real question, Ben, is why can't Extinguish All Hopes kill Hopeful Eidolon?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Look, there's an Evolving Wilds, Ben. I don't think we've covered that subject yet either.
Now we'll see if it's straight green-blue or if there's a splash. I mean, he didn't get a plane, so presumably he took the white out completely, which I think I like. I think I like what Matt did here. I'm looking at his blue, and it's just cards that are going to be better against controller stack with some flyers. The unblockable guys from Coral Barrier, the Squids.
Yeah, I mean, Coral Bear is
Frostlinks.
really good in this kind of matchup.
Yeah, And then you have Jace's Ingenuity, Peel from Reality, Negate.
I wonder if Matt should have just built blue-green.
I don't necessarily think so. I mean, there's white
I guess
creatures.
the pillars are a really big part of white,
Right.
and if you don't think those are good, then switching to blue has a lot more incentive.
Exactly. That I agree with completely. I love the pillars and the sealed, especially when you've got a green creature deck. But if you see that your pillars are bad, now we'll move out.
Yeah. And someone from the chat brings up that if we're talking about single-name teams, Pats have a pretty good team. You got Pat Cox, Pat Sullivan, Pat Chapin.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
I still think the Benz might. I mean, the fact that Benz has
clearly
two
win.
Hall of
Yeah,
Famers,
Benz
like plus
clearly
like maybe Ben Lundquist, I think would
Yeah.
probably be the
Ben
third.
Lundquist played on the Pro Tour for a couple of years.
Yeah, definitely.
Good player. Ben's are the best. Come on, guys.
So Sunblade Elf in Evolving Wilds indicate that there are still planes lurking in Matt's deck.
You know, you would think that, but he also just sacked Evolve and wants to get a Forest, number 2.
Well, maybe because he has the Colonian Twin Grove in hand, and he didn't have Sunblade Elf.
Oh, and he just
so he just drew Sunblade Elf.
That would make sense.
Yeah, the Sunblade Elf or a Netcaster Spider got denied. Ben was actually fine with letting Sunblade Elf resolve, which is pretty interesting. When you leave up Statute of Denial and they play a spell, how likely are you to counter it on turn 4? Like incredibly likely.
Pretty likely, but not necessarily if it's a 1-mana spell. When I see 3 Forests and an Island play, that guy has the potential to be a 1-mana 1/1 no ability this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's a pretty decent shot here.
And even if he has the planes, you have Typhoid Rat and Research Assistant kind of stopping it. So I mean, I think Ben made a pretty good play there, pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, it is good discipline to not use your counter there and then get a much better card, especially now that you have Master Predicaments already. And Matt's probably thinking like, and I decided all my pillars, so. Well, there's a second Evolving Wilds.
Yeah, and here it is costing him a bit. I mean, if he played Nissa, I mean, he couldn't make a 4/4 attack or anything. And if he gets it in play, it just dies to the Master Predicaments.
So yes, he probably would not play Nissa this turn. He might want to like peel and replay Coral Barrier or something, but
Yeah.
But given that you're not pressuring, that actually isn't that great of a peel anyway.
Well, I think what you're probably going to do is take the hit and then peel end of turn so that the Master Predicaments no longer in play, and then he can untap and play the Nissa.
Yeah, that's a much more appealing play.
That's not funny.
What? It's true though.
Yes.
Because for all the reasons you explained, it is more appealing.
Yes, that is true.
That's just the reality of the situation.
I agree, it's true.
Nissa is pretty good here, but the rat eating the first Nissa takes a bit of the momentum away.
Yeah, but this is still a pretty good turn for Matt.
Yeah, he gets to play Living Totem, attack Squid. It's a little suspicious that he's tapping creatures to leave 2 up, but he's just going to have to cast the peel anyway.
Yeah, well, not to mention, those creatures couldn't really block anything. It's semi-suspicious, but you might do it on a bluff in the spot because those creatures weren't really, what are they stopping from attacking?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't cost much. I mean, maybe it stops the Typhoid Rats, but that's about it.
Yeah, and you'd probably still be happy to trade the Living Totem for the Rat if that's what you wanted to do, and I mean...
So what do you name here? It's very interesting, like...
Well, I mean, I don't know Ben's hand.
Right, but like, in general, if...
Oh, like if I'm Matt and I don't know Ben's hand?
Yeah.
I'd probably name Over. I mean...
Just because it's so much more punishing?
Yeah, like, I mean... I let him play 1 free cheap spell if he even has it. Like,
Yeah.
he only has a couple cards left in hand, right? He already played a
Well,
bunch
he
of
has
things.
like 4 cards, because he cast a Sign in Blood.
Because, I mean, but he cast a 3-mana card, a creature, a 2-mana creature, a 1-mana creature, Sign in Blood.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what does he have left? How good is it? And it doesn't cost him much to cast.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference for me, and the reason I usually guess that they're hiding an expensive card, is that you get really punished if they play a 6 or a 5 for free.
Yeah.
You don't really get punished if they play 2 for
Yeah,
free.
it's not a big deal, but imagine if you let him play in Garrick's Wake or Covenant of Blood or, you know...
Well, you got a free Nimbus of the
yeah.
Isles.
You know, I know there's a decent chance they don't have anything that costs more, but, like, how many cheap spells do they have? Because if they only have 1, they could just cast it anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know.
I think... See, the decision there is less reading your opponent and more just, like, looking at game theory, like looking at the numbers of each card and also how much punishment you have.
You'll notice I didn't even mention what Ben looked like.